Welcome to the Alignment Show, featuring conversations with folks who have taken steps to identify their highest values and align their lives around them. Time on this earth is not unlimited, and you may be seeking to make sure you spend your time on things that matter to you. These conversations will encourage you and support you in doing so. Now, let's meet this week's guest on the Alignment Show. And a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it might be in your part of the world. Welcome once again to the Alignment Show. My name is Don King. I will be your host as always. And I had said last week, I thought this week would be a solo show, but I was very fortunate to be able to get at the last minute a guest I've been hoping to get on with us for a while. So I'll be introducing her to you in just a moment. Want to start out by reminding you that our sponsors, as always, partly me. I've got my books. You can see it's up in this corner, isn't it? This is the latest in the Sparklight Chronicles, Medium Well. It's a business parable that continues the story that came from The Way of the Three-Year-Old Why. These business parables are designed to help you to live your values and value your life. You can find my books, and I'll put a QR code up here for those of you who are on with video. We'll also have it in the show notes, but for those who are on audio, you can find these books, check them out, see if they might be useful to you in your life by going to donking.com. That's DONN, donking.com/books. Also, we've been talking for a while about Saleswise Live. There'll be a special tie-in here today as we talk about that. And in fact, I'll go ahead and mention her name. Don't worry, Kim, we're not about to bring you on quite yet. But Kim Angeli is one of the three experts in Saleswise Live. And we've got a special thing this week that they are doing a preview next week. Now, if you're watching this in the future, don't worry, this link will change to go to the actual program. But right now, I've got it pointing to a free, I'm just going to say preview, Q&A, so you can get a flavor of what they're doing. And so that'll be Saleswise Live, which we'll talk about a little bit coming up, just naturally, because that's part of what Kim's doing these days. So these are the folks that help us to be on the air, to help us help you, and we're very glad to be able to have these. I've already mentioned her name, Kim Angeli. I'll give you a little bit of background here. By the way, we've had tech issues this morning. I'm hoping that folks are finding us okay, because at least one of the links that we had put up on the preview or the upcoming post stopped working for some reason. So we did make new links. If you're watching this in the future, then no issue, of course, you're on with us. In any case, Kim is a consultant. She does all kinds of things. These days, she advises CEOs and founders who want to increase revenue, referrals, and retention. I like that alliteration. Revenue, referrals, and retention in their organizations without chasing strangers. I have met Kim through Bob Berg's group that we talk about on this program fairly frequently. And she's really impressed me with what she does. Something that she said almost in passing in a meeting last week is that she's never done a cold call. I think that's accurate. And so we're going to be talking with her about how she got where she is, her journey to get here. Let's go ahead and bring on stage Kim Angeli. Kim, welcome to the Alignment Show.
Thank you, Don, with two N's.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. We won't take time with that.
Yeah.
But it does make a little interesting website issue sometimes. And as a matter of fact, your last name, Angeli, it's want to be sure folks can find you. We'll be putting the QR code up in a little bit, but it's not Angel, folks, although she is an angel.
I'm Italian by marriage, Don. That's my married name.
Mhm.
And when I bought kimangeli.com, I told my husband, I said, well, you're stuck with me now, kid, because I have a domain name.
Yeah. Gotta make use of that. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I've just been getting to know you recently, Kim, and so I know you already as this person who is so authentic and since I coach people on effective communication skills, I've just really been impressed with your conversational quality. I don't know any other way to put that.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
and I am curious about because I really don't know your background. I know you know Bob Berg. You
Yeah,
know,
he is amazing.
and I've heard you say a little bit about how you met him, but I don't think I've heard like how you got started in sales to begin with. And am I asking 2 or 3 questions at the same time, which is not a good interviewer thing to do, but I keep coming back to this thing. Am I remembering accurately that you said even though you've been in sales all these years, you've never done a cold call?
No, I've never done a cold call in my entrepreneurial journey.
Mm,
I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years. Now, when I worked for Cisco Systems for a couple of months, I did have to call network managers, which
mhm,
was somewhat cold calling, but they were clients of Cisco. But
mhm,
as far as door knocking or doing the rudest behavior on the planet, which is cold calling, in my opinion, is
mhm,
interrupting someone's life and saying, hey, you want to buy something?
mhm,
That's not in alignment with who I am. And I grew up with entrepreneurs. The short story is I grew up with people who did not work for other people. My own parents were entrepreneurs for 50 years and all their friends were entrepreneurs. And so I didn't really understand the whole go to work and come home.
mhm,
You just kind of integrated your business into your life. And my parents had their home phone number on their business card in 1970. So I actually grew up with people calling the house about insurance. And of course, my father was a very witty, funny guy. He could tell a story almost as well as Bob Berg. And he could sing, but not as well as Bob.
mm,
And he would say, well, I just want to make sure you call the fire department first before you called me, your insurance agent. I heard that multiple times. And so my parents just built relationships and they showed up and they served their clients at their highest self. They were never felt interrupted by a phone call or a reach out from, and you have to think there was no email, there's no texting. And I think one of my biggest slight edges with customers is that I care about them beyond money and I care about their business as much as they do.
mhm, mhm. Okay, and that makes sense. And by the way, I don't know if you're seeing on the screen, we have comments from Bob Berg. We've been talking about Bob, and really appreciate. He made an earlier comment about the books we were talking about, and thank you, Bob. I appreciate that plug on the books. And we've got Kathy Tejanel on here also. So
Hello, beautiful.
yeah, glad to have you
He's
all on.
amazing.
This is one of the reasons we do it live. And I'll mention in passing, we're going to be changing the program to where we're going to record it. And I kind of hate to miss out on this live interaction, but glad to have them on here. And you talking about, and we're going to talk about what fusion points are here in just a second. There's a comment from Kathy. But you were talking about growing up in an entrepreneurial family, and I'm curious, did you ever have anything like a summer job, or did you for high school stuff, summer job stuff, had you already started a business of your own in high school?
Well, at 12 years old, I found a memo when I was cleaning out my mother's house. Both my parents have passed away in the last 5 years. And so I was cleaning out her house. And of course, I'm an only child. So there's, only me there with the dog. And I found a memo that my mother had typed up, and I knew she typed it because she always put notations in the bottom of who typed it. She should have been an English major. And I was looking for babysitting and odd jobs in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
And then I worked for my mother actually, where a lot of the process that I teach clients how to grow with gratitude. I managed my mother's birthday cards, calendars, and outreaches for her as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old for New York Life. So it's how to connect with the client ongoing 12 months out of the year. And when I got my license, I love my mother, but she is very a little polar opposite of myself. And so when I got my license, I quit working for her and went and worked for her brother, who was a publisher, and got paid $2 more an hour, and I could drive his kids to the country club. And so I said, "Goodbye, Mom. Uncle Ron's going to pay me $2 more an hour," which was $8 an hour back then in like 1987, which was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Well, it's not that been that much fun, but I learned a lot. But thanks." So, and then I've been in sales. My first job, Campbell Soup sales, out of college. Then I was in technology. I helped launch the mobile phone, and I've just always loved serving others with solutions in their best interest. And I've had opportunities. I've had managers before in my life who might go on a sales call with me. I won't mention any names. And they just told the client what they wanted to hear. And one experience I had, I was in the car with a manager of mine, and I said, "You are never going on a sales call with me again, because you didn't seek to understand what they were looking for, and you did not speak truth. And so I'm going to go back and tell them that what we positioned was not correct, and that I'm going to give them the best solution for themselves so that they know authentically what is their best solution." I said, because I'm not a used car salesperson, and I'm never going to show anyone. I prefer to choose to show them what's mutually beneficial for them and in alignment with them. It's not about me. And I've always been that way because I sleep at night. And I just think it's authentically how I show up, is that I'm a product of the product. And then I want someone to have a lot of value in the solution, or maybe the connection or the introduction. And that's been really something how I show up.
So it sounds like you've always, even from the very beginning, based your sales approach on building genuine relationships, which
Exactly.
I know is what you do and encourage now. Did that come from your parents, or was that, I'm not, we're not going to say bad things about parents if it happens not to be the case, but
I think they were very available. I remember a time where we had a client whose business burned to the ground at Christmas. And my father would say, if you can't show up for a client, if you have had someone pay you for insurance for all these years, just, in trust. I mean, that's a big trust. Your insurance is, here's a piece of paper. You're going to pay me every month, and you might use it or you might not. And my father would say, if you can't show up at time of claim for a customer, get out of the insurance business. Go do something else, because that's what they paid you for. So I remember one of our family friends who they insured, because again, they've intertwined life and business and hanging out with people, and they're doing business with friends, and clients become friends, and it's just integration. It's not like black or white. And we packed up Christmas dinner, and we went and we were with them during the burning down of their business. Okay. And that happened to me. I had a condominium burned to the ground, and 45 students at NC State didn't perish. And I spent the entire weekend with the Red Cross, and I flew in claims managers from Zurich. And it was a defining moment for me, because I felt like, all the people that were helping, the manager of that community, there's like smoke billowing behind his head, and he's coming out, and I've been there all weekend, and we've got the 45 students, nobody passed away. And we've got the fire department to the right, and I've got the claims manager to the left. And the manager, the community manager of the condominium, says to me, Kim, what's this going to do to the insurance renewal? And I was like, what? You've got to be kidding me. Like, those were his words out of his mouth. And I thought, in that moment, of all the things going on here, you're worried about $13,000 in annual premium. And we ended up indemnifying them. We rebuilt the building back for $1.4 million. So he gave us $13,000, and we built the building back for 1.4. This is what insurance does, right?
No.
So I went back to my office, and I told my mother, and she said, I said it with more conviction than she's ever seen in my lifetime. I told her, I said, I'm not sure how I'm going to get out of insurance, but people are ungrateful.
Yeah.
and I'm going to go inspire grateful living around the world. And that was April 29th of 2013. And I sold my agency 3 years later.
Okay, so that gets into the origin story for what you do now, which is
Yeah.
fascinating. I do want to probe just a little bit. As somebody who has bought insurance, and dealt with claims on a few times, I can tell you that my experience with insurance agents is generally different. I'm wondering if you were aware at the time how much different I'm going to say your dad, who said, as the agent, you should be there with people.
Very unique. It's why they
It's
didn't lose clients.
yeah,
My
yeah,
longest client was 26 years, and the only reason he's not a client with me now for whatever I'm doing is he's not with us anymore.
yeah.
My father and mother had a retention rate like no other. We were, and people say, "Oh, we know you're not the least expensive," but we were a phone call away. We were
Mhm,
responding.
mhm,
If someone has had insurance agents deal with claims all day long.
mhm.
But if you have someone come and they've had a house fire, or they've had a condo burned to the ground, that's the first time they've ever dealt with that. They don't even understand the process.
Yeah.
And so a lot of agents have gotten away from. Now, I have some agents around the country that I coach, and they're the best in the business. And they
Mhm,
care more about their policyholders than their themselves. But
mhm.
that is a very rare.
Yeah.
Most people want to sling you to a 1-800 number and never talk to you, is the average agent. And I say that because that's been my experience. I
That's just
actually
the
have an
reality.
agent right now who does a second home for us. And honestly, I hardly remember his name. I never hear from the guy unless it's a renewal, and he renews the thing. I had to actually pay my escrow back into the escrow because he doesn't do the renewal until 4 days, and the escrow's already been paid. And so it becomes this hassle for me because he's not proactive, not calling.
Mhm,
And then I
mhm.
have a stellar agent that does most of my insurance, who's a phone call away across the street from me. But
Yeah,
they're definitely few and far between the ones that care, in my opinion, in my experience, in my personal experience.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I just want to be sure that we draw this out. We're not talking. How shall I say this succinctly? Um, you are working with people who make a good living. You teach people about this. You're doing it yourself, and it's not some super slick sales techniques or skills. It's about building a genuine relationship, and so it's not rocket science, but it is rare.
It
Do
is
you
rare.
do you have a sense of why, when it's obvious that it leads to satisfaction in life? I mean, it just feels better, as well as Benjamin Franklin said, you can do well by doing good.
Right.
Why is it so rare?
I think that I think it's a mindset. I really believe, and I've said this to people in my past, and I say it, is that people either they're if they're in a transactional mindset and they bought into, and I'm not saying in any way that these do not work. SEO, print marketing, all that, right?
Mhm,
But when you get really down to it and you're looking at someone's business, and some of them have bought into this SEO. And I'll tell you, I've spent money on SEO, and I could have literally just gone to Hawaii for a month and had a way better time and more results. But I bought into that, right? I bought into the funnel and the fancy and we've gotten away from the human to human connection, letting people know we appreciate them beyond maybe what they purchase from us. And 68% of people will leave you and never do business with you again if they don't feel appreciated. And I
mhm,
talk about beyond the transaction. I tell people all the time, I'm like, y'all are really good at getting clients. You're good. You're good at getting them.
mhm.
I said, here's where the opportunity is, that millions of dollars is lost every day beyond the transaction. Being unforgettable beyond that transaction, because actually 45 days after someone does business with you, you're going to be lost. People are busy. And I
Mhm.
had this happen to me. I just sold a home, And the real estate agent said, well, I put together this whole service list of people that you've used to service the home. You know, do you want to put the list together for them? And I said, oh, sure. So I'm going through the list. Cleaning lady, you know, housekeeper who's amazing, who does my house now, landscaper, all that stuff. So I got to my irrigation guy and I'm like, oh, I was like, what's his name? I don't know what his name is. And the problem with that, Don, is I can't look up I don't know in this sweet little phone that I walk around with me and sleep beside my bed with.
Yeah.
And so guess who didn't get referred to the new owners?
Yeah.
Irrigation guy. And I pay him $1,000 a year. And so he didn't get referred because I don't know his name. I can't refer people that I have no conscious memory of.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens every day. And we're not doing fusion points beyond the transaction, which is something not about me. It could be, I teach gratitude calls. I mean, I've done a gratitude call to a client, just calling the client just to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And
not necessarily as a marketing thing. I mean, because
it's not any buy one, get one, it's BOGO day. No. It's a pure gratitude call just to show gratitude to someone who has thought enough of you to spend time and money with you. And it's low-hanging fruit. In fact, one of my clients I was supposed to have on for 6 months. He's been with me 17 months. And because, of course, I identify things in his business. Oh, we could work on this or we could do that. He's like, this is more fun than spray and pray marketing. This is more fun than ClickFunnels. This is more fun than SEO. I'm actually having fun in my business again, and it's profitable. And I think what happens is, here's an example. He's like, here's the example for me, Kim, is before you got hold of me and moved me from transactional mindset to gratitude and relational marketing, I would mail out, let's say, 8,000 postcards in the mail for window cleaning, power washing, gutter cleaning. And 80 people would call, 80 strangers they had no relationship with. And then we might convert some of them. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. And it was 80 out of how many? So just say those numbers again.
8,000 postcards. 80 strangers would call his office. And he would convert. Let's say he converted 60% of those. And it was a highly transactional business. So I said, have you ever thought about making this less transactional, more relational, and you build a commercial division, bigger jobs, less people? And so we're building a $5 million division with 25 relationships.
Yeah. Well, and let's play devil's advocate just a little bit here for somebody who's maybe starting out in sales. They don't already
one relationship.
Just one. Okay, that's because that's where I was going with this. I could see, especially if they've got how should we say it? Maybe a traditional sales manager who's saying, okay, you got to make so many phone calls a day, and all that sort of thing.
I'm going to roll my eyes really big.
Yeah.
I have a client actually who wanted to leave corporate America, and I'm going to have him on a LinkedIn Live. And he could not do social media. And he saw me speak at an event, and he said, I need to hire you. And I said, okay. And he said, I need you to help me grow my business, but I can't use social media. I can't, because I'm working for corporate America. And I said, I need one client or one relationship, because what happens is he has relationships. You won't hear me say client list. You're going to hear me say relationship list. Even if you leave a business, unless you were a hermit living on a mountainside, you know people that you can network through. I talked about this with a private client yesterday. We're building a whole nother consulting business beside the business he's run for 18 years. He wants to do what I do for his niche. And I said, this person you're going to call, who you put on your list for me, he did his homework. Yay. I love when clients do homework. And he said, well, she's never going to hire me. I said, I don't care. She's highly networked. She's not the person you're probably going to do business with. You're going to network through her. And when Brian Carruthers of Legal Shield, I was in some workshop with him one day, and this lives in his book. He has multiple books. It lives in one of his books, is people they don't understand the connection. Like the way I got to Bob Berg was
Mhm.
through a customer. And initially, it was through John Formica telling me to go to an event in LA in 2016, or Don, I wouldn't be on this call with you. And I certainly wouldn't be hanging out with Bob Berg and Kathy and having a magical life.
Yeah, yeah.
That's connection mapping. No, everybody discounts it, but it's so valuable.
And I'm still playing devil's advocate here. I certainly see the value in the relationships we're talking about.
Right.
These relationships obviously take time. And so for somebody who's starting out, I've got to pay the rent this month. So I just have to make those 200 phone calls in order to get 10 appointments in order to make one sale, right? I know that's your answer is not going to be right. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I got it.
And so for somebody who's starting out and they're in commission sales, maybe, or at least they're, because I can remember hearing Zig Ziglar, talking about when he started out, that when he sold a lot. He sold his sofa, he sold his TV, because he
Oh,
wasn't
yeah. Right.
he wasn't making sales, and so how do you get into that to begin with? I hear you saying the one good connection, but
Relationship.
but that takes time to develop. So
Not
what's your
really.
advice to people about getting through those initial challenges? That makes sense.
So if you have a relationship, Don, you have relationships, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Do you feel like all the relationships that you have in your life know exactly what you do for a living and could go out in the marketplace and really say what you do and what you add value to people for?
I sometimes think my wife doesn't know what I do for a living. So yeah.
So what happens is, so you're going to call 200 strangers who have no idea who you are, and you're going to drag them through you're going to drag them onto the bridge of trust.
Mhm,
When I could call 25 relationships and say, hey, I just want you to know, can I have a 15-minute conversation with you? This is what I'm doing. And is there anyone you could introduce me to? And you're having the conversation with someone that you already know. It's a shorter cycle. In
mhm,
fact, in fact, there are a lot of people, and shame on me. When I left insurance, I really wanted to get away from it in 2016.
mhm,
And so I have some relationships that probably think I'm sitting in Tahiti somewhere on the beach because I've never communicated back to them what I do. Now, I have communicated back to people what I do who I wanted to get back into connection with. And I've done speaking for them and all that stuff. Is that we're really not, I can take someone from a corporate job and take 25 relationships because everybody knows about 250 people. Now,
mhm,
you know more people if you connect with a Bob Berg or someone or like a Jeff West or a Kathy who basically knows more people, and they can articulate maybe better when you're doing introductions, you're going to have more success faster
mhm.
because you are using, and Bob has a better way of saying this and he can post it on here, but that person, and I have a webinar on this, is the person that is introducing you has already gotten the person you're connecting with on the bridge of trust. And see,
Mhm.
leads and cold calls don't have trust. So it's a lot more work when you could go into the people that know you and not say, I'm not looking for you to buy from me. I'm just communicating with you what I'm doing now. It is lost. It's a lost art because we bought into, well, let's call strangers and let's do this
Mhm.
funnel. And I'll tell you, I can generate, I'm about to. I'm going to do I was talking to a client of mine in London this morning on Facebook. And I said, if I curated kind of a pop up mastermind for something she's interested in, I could generate about $35,000. And it's because it's getting deeper in the relationship than being wide.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
really, and if you've never read the book, The Power of Who by Bob Boudin,
Mhm.
I met him at a Brian Buffini mastermind in 2022 with a client. We already know all the people we need to know to have successful lives.
Mm.
But we're
And folks,
chasing.
I'll have a link to that book in the show notes, so I'll get that a little bit later.
We
So say,
chase, right. We chase strangers at the expense of our own relationships that are right here in front of us.
mhm,
We've got a bird in the hand and we're chasing two in the bush. And we are not intentional about anything. We're not sitting down and saying, who really would make that introduction? Who really is my a relationship in
mhm,
my life, not in my business? We all have relationships that can help us get to where we want to go. We're just not intentionally connecting with them.
mhm. There is one little nugget that I want to pull out in what you've been saying. Um, I've done sales of various sorts over the years, and I can remember in some of those early trainings they would have you call up, the 25 people that you know, but it seemed that what they were encouraging me to do was to try to sell to those folks. And I know when a friend starts a multi-level marketing business or goes into insurance or whatever, and then you get that phone call and okay, they're trying to sell me now. That actually interferes with the relationship. You're talking about because you've already got the trust with these folks to call them up and say, here's what I'm doing now. If you're interested in it, fine. But what I'm trying to do is to find the people who need this.
Right.
And
Right.
so you may make some sales to those folks you're already connected to, but only because there's a genuine need there. There's not the pressure there, because I'm kind of going around this, but I can remember without naming the business. I can remember the question that would come up in training with, okay, I've already sold to all of my friends. What do I do now? And so it's not seeking the referrals, the genuine referrals, because they value what you have to offer.
Right. Right.
And
And
to me,
and
that's a really great insight in and of itself, beyond the thing about, don't focus on the strangers. And it's not just focusing on your friends and connections to sell to them. It's the genuine relationships.
well, it's taking what's in it for you out of the equation.
There we go. Yeah.
See, you ever have that? And I love to talk about this when I do some keynotes. See, you ever have that friend that when the phone rings, you're like, oh, what do they want? They
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
reach out unless they want something, which is fine. That's fine. And I will respond. But what I like to tell people is, are you nurturing the people that mean something to you consistently? Are you just reaching out when you need something? Or are you reaching out to have a conversation, or you send a note, or you invite, or you see something of value for them and you send it to them? And there's no hidden agenda. See, when you connect without expectation
Mhm.
and you are doing it for the person in front of you, not for yourself, life is so different. It's when you're truly a grateful go giver.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned that the grateful key there, which I know is at the heart of what you do these days. You've always practiced that. Was there a time where the gratitude aspect really became the focus for you? And if so, what led to that? Or has it just always been there?
Well, no, because there's levels of gratitude, and some I'll say, "Oh, I'm grateful," but I say it's almost like Jumanji. There's Jumanji level 1 and there's Jumanji level 10. I would have said I was grateful back in 2009.
Mhm.
Living gratefully, no. And living gratefully came to me in 2010 when I actually did some date seeking yesterday because you asked me this question.
Yeah.
So in 2010, we had a client in the insurance agency, which I had already bought my dad's partner out in 2008 for some reasons. And in 2010, we had a large client come to us and say, I'm moving 100,000 in revenue out of your agency on March 15th, one day.
Wow.
Praise God that I had already identified he was probably going to do this 2 years in advance, and I had replaced the business and taken the agency debt free as much as possible. 45 days later, my dad was diagnosed with liver disease. And I could tell in the I literally, you ever heard someone on a conversation on a phone? Well, in insurance, it's really important because, you could be in an errors and omissions issue really quickly. So I walk by his office and he's on the phone with the client. And I'm like, that's not right. That's not, no, no, no. He can't say that because the cirrhosis of the liver, he had 30% of his liver left, was, the brain just becomes, you can't form thoughts well. So after he left that day, I unplugged his phone and he never took a call from a client again. Now he came into the office and he would say, oh, my phone doesn't ring. I'm like, oh, it's okay. They're all calling me. And so then my grandfather died, Papa Tim, that August. And he sold cigarettes his whole life. He never had but one job. He sold cigarettes to convenience stores. And so I dusted off this book from Jack Canfield called The Power of Focus that I had bought in the airport in 2001, days or months before I got laid off from Cisco Systems. And of course, we call that shelf help, Don. We buy a book in the airport because we're airport book junkie, and then we put it on the shelf. We never read it. I might have read it in the moment, but it didn't stick. So I thought, God, my life sucks right now. Because, when do we make change? When, things are great? No, when things suck is when we make change. So I dusted it off, and in the book lives gratitude as a practice. And so I started practicing gratitude every day, and I saw the reprogramming, rewiring of my brain to choose what's going well, and it changed my life. And so even in the thick of yucky, when I write my gratitude like this morning, and I'm centered in gratitude, even when life is yucky, when my mom died, my dad died, then my mom died, just all the things, is even in those moments, I can find a glimmer of gratitude and stay in alignment. Life is better. And so that's really 2010 was the transformational year for me to really, like somebody might tell you, you need to do something and you're like, oh yeah. And I really put it into practice. And then my goal is to become walking in gratitude as much as possible at the 900 vibration, alignment, energetically. Every day I am honing that skill to show up better.
Now that's going to be at the heart of at least some of what you guys will be doing in Saleswise Live.
Yeah.
And the upcoming, we've mentioned it already, but we want to mention again. When is it? It's next Wednesday. Folks who are on with us live or who see us in the next little bit, I'll put the link up here. You can go to donking.com/saleswise preview, and that will take you to the registration for this Saleswise Live preview and Q&A. That's a Zoom event.
That's a Zoom event, and it will be replayed. If you're, a busy bee next week and you want to, or you're on vacation, you can register and you will get the replay, but we would love to have you show up live. We have 100 plus registrations so far, and we're looking forward to inspiring everyone and giving some knowledge about. It's just a preview of what we're going to do in the event September 22nd at the Ben Hotel in West Palm. And that one we just had was incredible. The content's incredible, but the people there connecting with each other and building relationships was the most magical part of it all. And it was amazing.
And I mean, here's what the sign up would look like. So it's a nice, simple thing. By the way, there where it says questions and comments, if you sign up for that and include the word align, ALIGN, I will give folks free copies of the 2 ebook versions of the Sparklight Chronicles, The Way the 3-Year-Old Why and Medium Well. So follow that link, folks, and take advantage of that. And just to say a little bit more about Saleswise Live, I'm going to pull up what I've got here. Saleswise. One of the beauties of live TV, so to speak, it takes a little bit for
it to sing, Don? I'm kidding.
Yeah. Here we are. This is what it will look like if you follow on through later, September 22nd through 24th. This will be the second one of these that they have
It
done.
will be.
The Ben Hotel, West Palm Beach, and special guest Richard Wildman. Am I saying his name right? I
You
think.
are. And Richard is he is incredible as well. And he just wrote a book called 100 Ways to Keep and Acquire Clients. And I put all my stuff away to make it neat for you, Don. But Bob Berg wrote the foreword in that book. And Richard, really the only way to see Richard speak is if you work for a Fortune 500 company. That's his ideal client. And he really has some great tips and teachings. And I was blessed to go through his content in 2022. I'm still licensed as an insurance agent, so I had to hang my licenses somewhere. And with that training, I got to go through Richard's program. And I even said to my dear friend Marcus, I said, one day I'm going to meet Richard Wildman. And here we are.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And Marcus, we went to lunch actually this week. Marcus, he's a great young man. And he just said, Kim, can you believe you're going to be with Richard in September? I said, I don't know. Pinch myself. He said, I was there when you said that in training. I will meet Richard Wildman. And then here he is, friends with Bob. I mean, who knew? My vision board is just coming to life like Jurassic Park. Oh, and
Well,
Bob just put Richard's website on the chat. Thanks, Bob. You're the best.
oh, and let me get that up here. Let's see. Why will you not? There we are. It wasn't scrolling there for a second. Yeah, there is the website, and we'll have it linked in show notes, folks. So it'll be a simple click. You can learn a little bit more about Richard that way. And I'm not sure. This is somebody who's coming to us through LinkedIn, and it's not telling us who. It's just saying LinkedIn user. But look at those two beautiful people. You got somebody else
Well,
with you
thanks.
there?
I put my makeup on just for Don today.
Oh, man. And
Thanks,
we'll have
Bob. You're the best. 100
yeah.
proven ways to acquire and keep clients for life.
Yep.
And
I'll
the
have
nuggets in there, Don, when you pair that book, I have a client right now, we're giving away as a heartfelt gift, the Go Giver with 100 proven ways, the Richard Wildman book, as a gift to clients, relationships. And those are two powerhouse books right there that just go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's
oh
fabulous.
yeah. And we'll
Hello,
definitely have
Estelle.
we'll have a link in the show notes to that book as well. Yeah, Estelle Poiret. I hope I'm saying that. Good old East Tennessee accent. It's probably mangling the French there, but old friend Estelle. So glad you're on here with us. Thank you. As we're getting ready to wrap up, I haven't shown your website yet. I want to be sure that
No, I
we
hope it's
see
working. No, I'm
that.
kidding. I checked it already.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah,
Very.
no, yeah. I do have a webinar on there about referrals. And if you wanted to download it, and then if you wanted to connect with me, I have a forum, of course.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, so
good stuff there. And as we're getting close to the end here, folks, I really want to encourage you to check out Kim's website because there's just a lot of useful stuff there. I always wind up by saying, for one thing, just a little reminder to our listeners, we are going to be taking August off because we're switching formats. We're going to a recorded format. And I hate that we'll lose the live interaction, but on the other hand, there are some benefits we'll get with that. But having said that, let me see, my train of thought was going somewhere there. Anyway, as we wrap up, I always am a generalist talking to someone who is a specialist in some form. The running joke, by the way, is that this is a half-hour program that typically runs 45 minutes. Yeah, because I just get so fascinated with the conversations. And when we move to the recorded format, it will be 30 minutes. I'm not quite sure how we're going to manage that. But I always like to wind up by asking, there's probably something that you wish that I had asked about that I didn't. what would that be, and what would your answer to that be? We
Well,
talked about a lot of stuff before
we did, we
going
did.
live,
We did talk about it, which some of it escapes me at the moment. But I just want people to know that gratitude, living a grateful life, choosing grateful living over grumpy living. Now, I'm not saying I'm not grumpy. You could call my husband right now and say, is she ever grumpy? Yes, for a moment, but I don't hang on to grumpy living. I could be there in the emotion for a moment, but when you are seeking out what is going well in your life and it's how you show up, it's your default setting in your business and life. And why I coach, I do not do life coaching. I tried it one time. I'm very interested in entrepreneurs, CEOs, and founders, people that own a business, because we're a little bit crazy in that we risk a lot and we build this stuff out of thin air. And I just align with that. Is that when you are putting gratitude in your business and life, it becomes more fun. Your life becomes more fun. Your employees are happier. And in turn, you have more profitability and you're getting referred clients and people that you love to work with. And it's hard to explain, but I can get an entrepreneur really living and breathing the methodology of Go Giver and gratitude combined. I have clients and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm having fun again and we're making money. And did it take a little bit longer than like mailing out 8,000 postcards and 80 people call me? Yes, but it's more fun and it's more profitable because guess what, Don? We were not put here to pay bills and die.
That was the phrase I wanted to be sure that we brought out. Yeah, that's it. That was what
Right.
it was. Yeah. Okay, say it again.
We were not put here to pay bills and die. We have a bigger purpose, and we need to be having fun, having better relationships, having more human connection, and having profitability and abundance, which doesn't always mean money. I mean, you could have freedom of location like you do and I do. That's abundant. I didn't have to drive an hour north like my husband did today to get to work. That's freedom. When I get out in traffic, I'm like, oh my gosh, where do these people come from? Because I'm blessed to be able to work from home a lot of the time with my 2 fur babies. So abundance doesn't naturally mean Benjamin Franklin's in your wallet. It's abundance of friends, relationships. I'm going to lunch today with an amazing friend of mine. That's abundance, that I can go to lunch with her. And so that's what I want people to know is when your default setting is grateful versus grumpy, life isn't fairies and rainbows, but it's certainly better than grumpy default.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's Estelle probably posting that.
Thanks, Estelle.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Really appreciate all that. Well, it's time for us to wrap up this week, Kim. So if you'll hang out in the green room for just a moment so that I can thank you properly, then we'll be back with you. But thank you so much for being on with us this week. We didn't have much opportunity to promo this, but this was just great to have you come on and be part of the Alignment Show.
Thank you, Don. You're a lot of fun.
And I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, so folks, again, I was very pleased to be able to have Kim come on. I've heard Bob Berg and Jeff West talk about her for months, and I finally got to meet her not too long ago. And she's one of those people that when you talk with her, it feels like that you have known her all of your life. And that is something that she brings to her clients and helps her clients to accomplish. So I wanted to take a look at next week. We've got 2 more weeks where we'll be doing the live shows, and next week we have Christina Bianca Harson coming on, and I'm just getting to know Christina, so I'm honestly not a whole lot of sure of what's going to go on with that episode. But as you know, here on the Alignment Show, we have conversations with people who have taken steps to bring their lives into alignment with their values. And we like to say that we help you to live your values so you can value your life. And that's what we're going to be doing next week, once again, on the Alignment Show. So be sure and keep us bookmarked. As I said, we will be taking August off But we will be coming back with a slightly different format for the show because we want to help you in living your values so you can value your life. And we'll see you next week on The Alignment Show. That's it for this week's episode of The Alignment Show. What has it inspired you to do in your own life? Whatever it is, take action now and take the first step. It will help you to talk with a friend about what you're thinking. Share confidencecultivators.com to spread the goodness. And remember to live your values and value your life. We will see you next week on The Alignment Show.